All, thank you for tuning in. My name is Russell. You're watching for Chits and Giggles. And today, I'm really excited because I'm joined by the phenomenal game designer, Elizabeth Hargrave.
Hello.
Thank you so much for joining us. Before I get into questions, because obviously got a lot of questions I'd like to ask you, I have to give a mention to the audience. If you have any questions that you'd like me to ask Elizabeth, please write them in the chat below. You can see the little chat screen. Oh, I always forget where it is. It's around there. So they'll come up and I'll try and ask them towards the end of the show. So write them in. I'll make sure I catch them all. And if you haven't followed already, please do as well. Followed in online and there. Anyway, Elizabeth, thank you so much for joining. How are you?
Thanks for having me.
Oh,
I'm fine.
Good.
I'm surviving.
So obviously this is tea and a chit chat, so we'll get stuck into the hard questions. What tea are you drinking?
I made some lavender tea.
Wow.
I can't do caffeine really. It does a number on my GI tract. So I get into a lot of weird herbal teas and like trying different flavors and I saw lavender tea and it's supposed to be very soothing for your nervous system, which we can all use right now, right?
I mean, I'm not that big of a deal. You don't have to be too nervous when you're talking to me. I should be the one drinking the lavender tea, to be honest.
Just generally right now, my anxiety is not in the best place.
I understand, and obviously there's many reasons behind that. But are you doing okay? Are you doing well?
I am. I'm doing fine. I mean, I couldn't ask for a better setup because I have a house with a yard, so I can get outside right here. There's lots of places that we know to go birding where there are not a lot of people, especially at birding o'clock at like 6 in the morning.
Oh,
And
birding o'clock. That's a new term. I haven't heard that
yeah,
before.
yeah.
Is that like the?
I live with my spouse and we have a lovely house and plenty of food to eat and I can't complain really.
Well, that's awesome. I mean, I should mention, by the way, because I mixed it up for you, because I know you're based in America. Yeah.
Yes.
So I'm drinking a tea that's from America. It's from Trader Joe's, which is a chain
Yeah.
of shops over there, and it's a spiced chai. So if anyone is
Lovely.
curious, I don't know. I feel like I mixed it up, so I should mention it because I'm usually just drinking like bog standard British branded tea. It's not too exciting, so I thought I'd introduce that. Cool. Well, we've obviously already started talking about the birds, and that will be what most people know you from, is your fantastic game Wingspan. And I should say congratulations, as some people in the chat have also said, because you've sweeped a lot of awards up with that game. So yeah, congratulations. It's
Yeah, thank you.
a lot of the Golden Geek Awards went right towards you. But you also won this Spiel des Jahres, and you also are now top 20 board game in the Board Game Geek Top 100. Is that correct?
I keep bouncing between 20 and 21. I didn't look in the last couple days, but yes.
Well, let's not
somewhere
look,
right around there.
and let's just
Either way, I'll
assume,
take
yes,
it.
you made it to the 20. Which, I mean, how many games designers across history can actually say that?
No, right?
How does that
Right.
make you feel?
Amazing. It's just amazing. I mean, I was talking with Tom Vassell last night about sort of my expectations going into this last year, where, as a first-time game designer, people say, like, you're doing really well if you sell 5,000 copies of your game. Like, that was sort of what that would have been fine with me.
And
So,
I know, because I watched your interview with Tom Vassell just last night, or when I can't remember the time zone, but you are well above that now. Would you be all right to say how many copies
yeah,
you've sold?
I mean, I don't see the numbers as they come through, but the last number that I heard from Jamie at Stonemaier Games was like 330,000.
I mean, whew, like
Yeah.
mind blowing. Like that must. I mean,
Yeah.
so I mean, did you? I mean, you already mentioned this, but like you say that it's like well beyond your realm of possibility that you would be doing this. But now that you're here, surely, like, can you top that? Do you think you can top that? Do you think you've got it in you to go beyond that? Like,
I mean, I'm not going to try and set that expectation for myself.
I mean, I certainly believe you can. With it's your first game, isn't it, Wingspan? Just
Yeah.
for some people know
Yeah.
don't. So that obviously, for me, like someone who has never actually published or made a game, first games you obviously, there's a very unlikely for you to do so phenomenally well from a first game, because obviously, like any craft, you get better at it the more you do it, right? But there's also a lot of time, a gestation time, when you are coming up with your first game. So you have a lot of time to think about it and craft it, right? So where do you feel like you sit on that balance? Do you think it is a case of, well, it's my first, so I had more time? Or was it like, well, yeah, I mean, like my first game isn't my best game. Do you believe in both of those? Am I making sense?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think it took a lot more time because I didn't know what I was doing. So the first couple of years were like wandering around trying to find the right system for things to work, and like I don't think any other game will take me as long as Wingspan did, because I've learned so much about how to design games. So that's part of it. But also, if like part of the whether your first game takes that long is like whether you hold yourself, like what standard are you going to hold your first game to, and are you like, I just am sort of a perfectionist, and like really also had the great fortune of working with Jamie at Stonemeyer, who's an amazing developer and had, you know, great ideas about how to take things to the next level, and so I think that all plays into it too.
He was one of a previous guest on this show, actually. So yeah, it's cool that, you know, like you've both been on the show, and I feel like what a great coup that is. So obviously Wingspan. Actually, one before we go on to that, like, does that mean then you're more excited, or you're more confident about your next game? I know that Tasi Mussy has been released, and, you know, seems to have been well received as well. And it's a completely different game, because I mean that is just a very small game in a card wallet, and I have played that and I really like it. But obviously Mariposas is more towards the bigger style game. Does that mean you're a bit more confident about this being released?
I don't know. Am I more confident? I mean, I know a certain number of people will check it out just on the strength of Wingspan. And so, like, compared to my expectation going into Wingspan at the beginning of last year, like, will anyone even buy my game? Like, I have some confidence that people will buy Mariposas, right?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
But, no, I think any creator always has like that feeling in their stomach of like, oh, but will people like it?
Yeah, I mean that, but I was just curious, because I imagine if that was me if I was in your position, I don't think that would ever go. But I think that comes, like, that's part and parcel of being like a creator, isn't it? That you always are never 100% sure that what you release will be well received, and you know, with such a big predecessor in Wingspan, obviously you will have a little bit more of that sort of guilt, or like, oh, what's going to happen with this? So I'm very excited about it, and I think that the theme is really exciting. And obviously, speaking of themes, you have almost defined yourself so far as somebody who has embraced nature and, you know, creatures and stuff. Now, is that something that you think you will continue to do, or have you plans perhaps to sort of break the mold a bit and go into completely different things, and it's just that these games have been from your passion for nature, and maybe you will break out and do something a bit different in the future?
Right. Mostly it's just like that's the stuff that I'm interested in. So it's the things that occur naturally to me. Before the pandemic started, I was starting to work on a dexterity game about stunt people.
Wow. That sounds exciting. Is that
Which I've just totally shelved it because I can't effectively play test it right now.
Oh, so it could still come out in the future. That's very exciting. I'm very excited about that.
That was just like a little brainstorm that I took last year, actually, to Unpub. I just took a bunch of components and it was like, I want to do this thing, like mess around with it with me. Like I didn't even really have it as a game, and like just the concept and it's such a fun theme. Like people were like coming over to watch, and so I think there's something there, but I don't know how to play test it without being able to have a group of people in person flicking things around. So
So
one's on the shelf, and I don't know what's going to be next.
well, obviously, this hopefully is not going to be a forever thing. There will be chance to go back. So, but I'm kind of excited. That's great. So you kind of answered that very well. Like you are planning potentially to mix it up already. You already kind of have.
But most of the other things on my list are nature things. Like it's just what I do. I
Yeah.
don't know.
I mean, does that start from very young? I should say, by the way, there's so many people in this chat. I and Spy, Chris and Lindsay, Paul Grogan popped in to say hi. Bears is here. Kestrel 5, thanks for stopping by. This is really awesome. And there are some questions being asked. Like I said at the beginning of the stream, we are going to try and ask them towards the end of the stream after we've played a little game that I've devised for Elizabeth, but we'll more on that later. But obviously, nature. You love nature. Now, as a British person, Welsh person, but British, we have a very famous nature person. There's a name for them. I can't remember what they call him. But in David Attenborough, you must have seen quite a few of his bits, right?
Sure.
Yeah?
Sure.
Are you a fan?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, definitely.
He's like a national treasure. I mean, he's getting on in years, but he's still going on and he's still making stuff. And
Is he?
yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, he's like 92, 93 years old now, and he's still presenting these kind of shows. That's very exciting. And yeah, like what an icon. So I'm not surprised that you've heard of him because he's probably like the famous British thing. Do you think? So you mentioned briefly as well about not being able to play test. So how much of your sort of job does that actually consist of playtesting? How much of that is it? Quite a lot.
A lot. I mean, the structure of my week typically is that on Wednesday afternoons, I get together with a group of folks who are all either doing this full time or have flexible enough jobs to be able to play test on Wednesday afternoon. So like Matthew O'Malley, who lives very close to me, who designed Between Two Cities and a bunch of other games. The Search for Planet X, he has what's coming out. And Dominic Krapichetz, who designed Evolution and Say Anything and runs North Star Games. They're both some other guys. We'll get together on Wednesdays, and so like the whole structure of my week is like panic, have to have something ready to test on Wednesday, and then like Thursday and Friday like catching up on like what all the notes came out of that, and having that structure really keeps, I think, all of us on our toes and keeps things moving, and it's just like an amazing resource and the thing I'm probably missing most right now because it's just gone.
Yeah, I mean,
we've been doing a little bit on Tabletop Simulator, and I have tapped in. There's a bunch of playtesting groups from around the world that have started doing stuff on Tabletopia and playtest and Tabletop Simulator. I have not put anything up there yet. I'm still finding it very frustrating as a player. It's just so much clunkier.
Yeah, I mean, lots of people have kind of brought it up, and it has been sort of the go-to for a lot of designers such as yourself, and even even publishers, I'm sure, are using it. I know that they've been actually a few publishers have released games on Tabletopia and such, but I can understand it's basically the reason why I feel like those poker. Video poker, 3D poker kind of programs never took off because it's not the same as sitting down in a real place with somebody. You can recreate the 3D environment, but it's not the same. And I feel like even just as much as typing like out feedback, it's more of a hassle when you're just writing it out. But I guess you could also use voice chat. Anyway, yeah, but
yeah, we do voice chat with it, so that part is fine. But just like being able to physically manipulate things and like having to zoom in and out, and like this weekend I was playing a game where you had to look at all 4 vertical sides of a die.
Ooh.
And that you can't like pick up an object and look at it in tabletop. Like you had to like rotate around the entire table to look at the 4 sides of the die.
Yeah, it's not like in real life where you just walk around the real table. You just go, oh, yeah, okay, I get it. Oh, that sounds like an interesting...
Right.
Has there ever been a game that you have been really impressed by from a design perspective that you've been like, wow, I wish I'd thought of that? I mean, actually, do you play a lot of games in your spare time? I know it's like that classic thing of a cleaner whose job as a cleaner has a messy home because they're cleaning all day.
Right.
Like, are you going to then clean all night as well when you get back home? Is it the same for a board game designer? Are you playing games after you've done all day designing them?
I would say I enjoy playing games. I still do it a lot, but designing games definitely cuts into the amount of time that you can spend playing them. Like, it's a zero-sum game, right? You're either playtesting or playing a published game.
So do you get to play a lot of games? Sorry, I was saying, let's go into the question I said, which was, have you played anything sort of in the last few months that you've been like, wow, I wish I'd thought of that? It's a tough question. I feel like
it's a tough question. The game that I have been most impressed by in the last 6 months, I guess I played it last August, so a little longer than that. Was actually Point Salad, which is impressive for its simplicity. Yeah. I just think it's a really clever game, and with so few rules. That's
a great choice, actually. I have a copy of it, and it was recently you posted on about the all carrot strategy, right?
Yeah, right.
So Paul Grogan, who's on the stream, he did the onion strategy. So I'm fairly sure it's a fairly similar strategy, but it's good, right? And it's such a simple game that you just can't believe that nobody thought of it before.
Right,
yeah.
Right.
So sometimes there is still massive innovation with such simple ideas, and you'd think in a industry as crowded as the board game industry, where you've got thousands of games being released every year, that you would kind of not miss those kind of really obvious things, and yet they're still coming out. It's great.
Right.
I want to talk a bit more about Wingspan because obviously it's your biggest hit, and there's lots to love about it, and that's. A big thing about it is presentation. It's probably the first game that I played, and I know this is Jamie as well, but it was the first game that I touched the rulebook and I went, whoa, this is a nice feeling rulebook.
Yeah, that I can't take any credit for.
But the artwork is phenomenal, and it's really sort of blown people away. That game with those cards, and every single one is like a masterpiece in its own right. You were lucky to have female Colombian designers, artists who designed that. I'm gonna really, is it Natalia Rojas and Ana Maria? Oh, I've forgotten.
Aramillo.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for saving me there. But obviously, that is phenomenal as well, because as a female games designer with female artists and another artist, Beth Sobel, who worked on the sort of presentation, the rule book, and the back of the cards, for example. What a
and the player mat.
Yes. So what a strong team. Was that something that you had a say in making happen?
So Jamie asked, did I have any artists I wanted to work with? And I immediately said Beth Sobel, but knew that was a long shot because we needed so much art, and she is already very popular and busy. But she did agree to do the player mats, and those are gorgeous and very much in keeping with her other work. And then Alan Stone, who's the co-owner of Stonemaier Games with Jamie, actually is the one who found Natalia because their kids go to school together.
Wow, that's fantastic.
And so they sent me a couple pieces that she and Anna had done sort of for my approval. And I was like, yeah, it looks great. Let's do it. So yeah, I mean, usually it's on the publisher to find the artist, and so I think they did a great job.
Yeah, I mean, with that. I mean, every card that I think what's really funny. I think you might know Ross Connell of More Games Please.
Yeah.
He's obviously very up on his art, and I find it really amusing when he did a sort of thread about the the sort of attitudes that he envisioned the birds having, and coming up with sort of little
Yes,
memes.
that was
That was just amazing. And I actually felt that as well when looking at the cards. I'm like, oh yeah, this definitely looks like a sassy bird. Oh, this one's serious. You don't want to mess with this one. So it's really good that it came out with such character in that. But going back to obviously the way that such a strong female team that created this game. I mean, that must be somewhat, a proud moment, because especially in an industry where generally we're quite progressive, and we are certainly going towards a place we need to be going towards. It still feels like it is a bit male dominated, not enough diversity. So I mean, do you feel that you are now part of that sort of direction shift?
Yeah, I mean, so out of the top 200 games on Board Game Geek, the last I checked, under 10 of them had females on the
Wow.
box. I mean, designers. It's like, yeah, we're moving in that direction, but it is a slow
Yeah.
process. And starting from next to zero. So, yeah, it's really not, like, I hear from parents sometimes whose daughters are like super excited to see girls' names on the boxes because it's something that they haven't seen before.
It's crazy, but
Impressive.
I know it's just so mind-boggling, especially because there is very, like, I can't even envision a good argument for why anybody could not, no matter their background or their gender or race, could not design a board game. It's not like it should be open to everybody, and it's nice that you are breaking that barrier, by making a game that clearly people love, and hopefully showing a lot of young women out there, or young people out there, that this is the right way to go. We need to be making sure that more diverse people are making games, because we come up with amazing things that have never been made before. So thank
Right.
you.
I think I do think that there is a bit of a chicken and egg of, like, as we get more diverse people designing games, they will design more diverse games and bring more people into the hobby.
Yeah.
That's my hope.
I mean, that's mine as well. I know I haven't got an actual example, but I know I haven't got an actual game is what I meant. I'm not actually contributing towards it myself, but I will try and support any way I can people of much diverse backgrounds, like, making these games. And yeah, I mean, I do believe that we can get there, but as you said, it's quite slow progress, but we are taking those steps now, and that's awesome. I mentioned I'm sorry, I'm just writing through all these words. So I know that we're talking about birds, so I'll just do another bird-related question while we're here. I know I thought I had a really good question, but then somebody asked it on the Dice Tower chat. When it comes to birds and stuff, would you be open to doing an extinct birds sort of like addition? Maybe even if it's just like a promo pack as opposed to like a full-on expansion.
Right. Yeah, it's definitely on my list of something that I might do if we get through all the continents and I still have some wingspan left in me.
Do you?
I just don't want to commit to that being possible.
That's fair. That is fair. And obviously, we're talking about. I think I heard you say there's 5 continents that you are thinking about in the chat. Was that right or not? Or...
Yeah, so the plan is, so the base game is North America. We've done Europe, we'll do Oceania, and then, so that's 3. And then definitely Asia, Africa, Latin America, South America, some version of whatever, however you want to count that part of the world. The question being, what happens to Central America?
Oh God, yeah. Oh no, we'll open that can of worms
totally
later.
And then Antarctica is sort of an outstanding question. So the number's a little squishy, but yeah, that's the plan. I mean, it's been really fun learning about the birds from parts of the world that I haven't been to. It's also a little nerve-wracking because I don't know the birds, right? Like the European ones, I've been birding in Europe a few times. I at least had like a gut level, like, oh yeah, these are the super
Yeah.
common ones. Um, but yeah, Oceania for me, I've never been. I would love to go sometime. They have amazing birds, and it was really hard to pick the list.
I was even going to say, like, just from doing a little bit of research for something, which you'll see later, just looking at all these different kinds of birds and just being flabbergasted. I mean, even on your Twitter account, was my eyes were opened to a bird which is just like the most colourful thing I've ever seen. And I was like, that looks like it's photoshopped. And then I looked it up and it wasn't. I think it's called the lilac roller, the lilac feathered roller.
Yeah.
How is that
Yeah,
not
they're in Africa.
photoshopped? Is that that's real?
That is probably like so in our Facebook group for Wingspan, I recently posted like what birds should I do for the continents that we haven't done yet, and the lilac-breasted roller was definitely the one that came up the most.
Insane.
That thing's crazy.
You mentioned going to Europe. Have you been to the UK before?
Yes,
you have
several times.
What did you feel about that? Just being a British person, curious. What did you think of the country? Like, whereabouts did you visit?
Oh, I've been several times. I came over when I was a kid because my dad used to do research at Cambridge in the summers. So I've been there. I've been my husband has an uncle in London, so
Nice.
we go and visit him every few years. And with him, we've gone into the countryside. I've actually been to Wales.
My home
when I was a
country.
kid,
Wonderful. Do you remember
which was
where?
cold, even in the summer.
Yeah,
That's
sorry
my
about
main
that. Yeah, I can't do anything about that, but it's beautiful. If you go to up to mid and North Wales, like I mean, I'm from South Wales, but North and Mid Wales as well. Like there are some beautiful places in South Wales, but like upwards, further up you go, the more green, the more like mountainous it gets. But yeah, it's great. Thanks for visiting. I was just mentioning to people in the chat again. I'm keeping log of all your questions. Sorry, I'm not like reading them out to her. I might actually have to go to the game quite early. Yeah, I'm gonna have to go to the game a little bit earlier than planned because there's actually quite a lot of questions. It's quite exciting. Anyway, so let me go and try and get some good questions. Oh yeah, so this is just a random thing, and we're still on the subject of Wingspan. But have you looked at Board Game Geek's? They have a weight rating for these games, and they have a weight rating for your game. Do you know what it is? And B, do you agree with it?
It's like 2.3-ish,
yeah,
I think.
Pretty close.
I did look at this. Because people were complaining about the Board Game Geek Awards, right? And sort of about like, is it possible that a game can be a family game and a strategy game at the same time? Mm-hmm. And I think that fundamentally like gets is the word strategy associated with a certain weight class. And in my mind, it's not. And I'm not going to argue about like whether I deserve 8 golden geeks. Like, what? I don't need 8, but but I do think like to the extent that people use strategy as a more general term of like games that have interesting decisions in them. You absolutely can have a family game that is a strategy game. And in fact, that was sort of the exact spot that I was aiming for with Wingspan. But so one of my comments that I made that some of the folks at BGG actually responded back and like, oh, that's actually an interesting decision. And I think other people raise this too, is like, should there be categories that are more based on those weight ratings? Because to me, the weight ratings are very meaningful. Like if I look them up and it's over 3, like that means something.
Yeah. I think that's a great point.
And I use it to like, do I feel like playing that game this weekend or not?
how much sleep did I get last night?
Yeah, exactly. But it's been interesting because in reaction to my saying, like, if you want to be able to have an award that's guaranteed to go to a heavier game, which I think there's some merit to wanting to recognize the heavier games that are out there that are like, I don't know how people do that.
Well, it's because of, I imagine, I mean, you made some really good points. And actually, if you check on Elizabeth's Twitter account, you can actually find a really nice thread that was actually really interesting to read. And I retweeted it. About weight ratings, and I think it's true. Like, it's hard to compare a game which is for a certain like mind, certain like what do you call them, like mindset, you know, against something that is for a completely different mindset. And I do agree with you. I think there is a distinction between those, and we shouldn't necessarily compare, you know, a really light game against a really heavy game, because they're for different audiences. But there is like a middle ground as well, you know. I think is a really interesting point, and I highly recommend reading that thread if you do get the chance.
But I was surprised to learn that there's controversy around the weight ratings, because I find them useful, but there are apparently people who think that they're crap and meaningless.
Well, it's like an extra stat. Like you don't have to you know, use them. Like you can just read up on a game and make a decision for yourself whether you think it's a game for you, and you know what you like. If you've been in the hobby for, you know, a few months, you kind of get a feel for what you like, right? And then that's what you know, these playthrough videos and these how to play videos are useful for, because they kind of give you an idea. Well, that is a lot of decisions to make in that game. That's quite fiddly. I don't want to play that. I'll try something else. You know, it doesn't matter. But anyway, I think I don't have anything extra to say on that really, but very good points already covered by yourself. And just a little tidbit: did you know that the European expansion has a slightly different weight rating?
Oh, I had not looked at that. So that doesn't surprise me.
Only slightly different. It's like a 0.1 difference. But I was like, oh, that's kind of interesting. Like, if you fancy something a bit lighter, you just play the European expansion. So there we go. We will... Oh, another thing. So obviously we'll talk about your game Mariposas as well, which isn't out yet, right? It's not out?
Okay. Right. It should be out in August. That's the plan.
Very exciting. And obviously that comes from your love of learning of the migration habits of the monarch butterfly.
Correct.
I'm very excited about it. I confess I actually don't know a lot about the gameplay, but I'm very excited just based on the theme alone. I think it's a really fascinating thing, and I can already see the game element of migration as a theme. So I mean, yeah, would you like to sort of maybe give a quick kind of spiel about the game? So the board is a map of eastern North America. So monarchs migrate from sort of central Mexico as far north as southern Canada. Wow,
which is amazing, like 3,000 miles. And so you play the game over 3 rounds that are like 3 seasons. So in spring, there are goals that are basically causing you to go north and multiply, because you start with just one butterfly, but you're doing some set collection to then make like offspring. And then the summer goals are all about like spreading out and going to certain places and getting more and more butterflies on the map. And then in fall, the biggest source of points is just getting butterflies back to Mexico where you started.
Cool.
So it has an interesting sort of cycle on the board. It looks like you can look at like animated maps of the monarch migration, and the pieces on the board actually kind of look like that, which I love.
You seem really proud of that. You should be. That sounds great.
Yeah. I mean, that was like the core concept of like just knowing about that system and nature and thinking like, oh, that should totally work in a game. Like, and it's just a cool story that not everyone knows that this even happens.
I didn't until learning about the game, actually. On that basis, and you don't have to say which ones, because I know it's kind of top secret information, but have you got any other sort of big elements in nature or the animal world which you're like, that is a really solid idea for a game, but I haven't actually got round to doing anything with it? And you can just say yes or no if you want.
I have one game that's signed with Pandasaurus. That's another, like, I read about this thing and was like, oh, there should be a game about that.
Cool.
But they're not talking about it yet.
Right.
They're doing the whole Stonemaier, like, we'll tell you when we're going to...
They do like to do that, don't they? They're like, we're gonna tell you more soon. You'll have to keep your eyes peeled.
And that one honestly still needs a lot of work. They sort of snatched it up before I would have normally pitched it, because they saw it at a playtesting event.
Oh wow! Very excited. I'm going to learn more about that.
Yeah, it's fun. I'm excited to work with them. I like a lot of their games. And yeah, I mean, I just keep like a running list on my phone when something occurs to me when I read about something or hear. And so like, yeah, when I'm ready to start another game, I'll sort of look through that list and brainstorm a little bit and pick what I'm gonna do next, I guess.
Awesome. Well, because we have got a lot of questions from the audience, I feel like we should move on to the game now. Okay, so how this is going to work now? I sort of think the tech element of this, but the game is called it's called Wingspangled Coquette. Okay, so hopefully you know that name of that bird. That is a bird, the spangled coquette, but obviously Wingspan. Spangled Coquette. So what I've done is that I've created a portmanteau by merging those two together, and that kind of forms the basis of the game that I'd like you and the people watching at home to play along with. And the game is simple. It's a question. Okay, so I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm going to show you a picture of a bird. And to make it easier for you, I've picked birds that are actually in Wingspan. So you'll know that it's going to be one of 170 birds. And the answer to the question that I'm going to ask you is the end of the bird name is the start of the actual answer. And the answer is always a board game. So again, that's another way to help you, okay? So I've got 5 questions for you. I'm going to figure out how I'm going to do this. I might have to send you them over the video chat thing. So if you maybe open up your conversation and I'll try and send you an image. Okay, so I'm going to send you the image first, and I'm going to put it up on the screen for everyone at home as well, so don't worry, you will be able to play along. So I'm going to send you the first one now, okay? Let me know if you see it in the chat. Hopefully this works. Can you see that? So don't answer the bird yet, okay?
No.
You can't see it in the chat? Oh, I haven't sent it yet.
No.
I haven't sent it yet, that's why. This game is going very well, isn't it? You can see, okay, so that is the bird. So I'm going to put it up on the screen for everybody as well. Okay, so you can see that. Oh, I'm shrunk. I'm going to have to shrink myself back up. Okay, so there we go. So that is the name. That's the bird. But the question. Okay, so question 1. Which Spiel des Jahres nominated guessing game involves placing colored cubes and punctuation marks onto a board? Okay, so you take the bird name. And then the end of the bird name will be the start of the board game answer. And you have to come up with the conjoined answer. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So if anyone wants to... I think... Oh, they see it at home. That's good. Okay. So yeah. So yeah, which Spiel des Jahres nominated guessing game involves placing colored cubes and punctuation marks onto a board? Well, somebody is...
Foul concept?
I'm going to give you that one.
Peregrine
That's it. You did it. You got it. Fantastic. Congratulations. You know your birds and board games. All right. So that was the answer, guys. So Peregrine Falcon concept. All right. So you have the Peregrine Falcon and concept the game. So congratulations to everybody that got that at home. Are you ready for number 2? I'm going to have to send you over the next bird.
That's Jamie Stegmeyer's favorite bird, by the way.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that. That was a complete random choice. So you'll see So Elizabeth's seeing the bird, and I'm going to put the second bird up now for everyone at home. Oh, I'm shrunk again. I had to change the size of my video. There we go. Okay, so that's the second bird. So the second question is, which Richard Garfield created game or designed game pits you as monsters fighting each other for fame in Japan? Okay, so we've got the bird.
Hein Sis King of Tokyo.
Yes. Well done. This might be harder for everybody at home, I realise, because not everybody's going to have the same knowledge of birds as you, but it's still you can pause it if you want and then come back to it later on. But yes. I
did have a moment of panic with that bird because it's not one that we have where I live.
Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I was hoping, at least by giving you wingspan-related birds, that would actually be fine. So yeah, well done. You're doing well. 2 for 2 so far. Okay, so are we ready for the third one?
Yes.
Okay. So here we go, bird number 3. Hopefully this is one near where you live. I didn't check this. Okay, so that's for everyone. That's for Elizabeth, and now everybody else is going to see the third bird. Chris and Lindsay from behind the box are saying mad bird skills, Elizabeth, and I have to agree.
Thank you.
So the third question is, what spy-themed team game has you using creative word association to get your teammates to pick certain cards? So, I don't think, no, I have done this right, good. Wait, is that right? Yeah, I think I've got the right one. Yeah, so...
I know what game you're talking about.
So that should should help you.
It should help me with what bird that
So you
is.
know the beginning of the game is the end of the bird name. So I don't know.
Yeah, and I thought this was something, but that it doesn't end in that. So I'm wrong about one of
Unless I
them.
picked the wrong bird name, bird image, which I'm pretty sure I didn't. If I did, I do apologize, and I'll give you the point anyway.
Oh, this is another one you picked the Western version of. So
Ooh.
junk code names.
There, you got it. Congratulations, fantastic. You're doing really well. So 3 for 3. So it's very strong, very strong. Okay, so we're going to go on to the fourth one. So I'm going to send you the fourth one. Bird number 4. Remember, there's only 5, so you're already like over average. Not that I've tested or play tested this game.
I've won, right?
You
3 out of 5.
You have one already,
Right.
but now you're playing for pride. Bird pride. All right, so that's
All right.
so you've got that one, and now everybody at home is
Yep.
going to see the next one. And the question that follows that is, which children's game involves an elaborate setting up of the pieces on the board over the duration of the game?
I know the answer, but I'll give people a second.
Oh, I like
before
this
say.
confidence.
think
I
about
felt this was kind of easier because I think that the game is easier to guess. But yeah, you're.
It was one of my favorite games as a child. Yes.
Did you actually play it? Because I have this conversation with people where I never actually played the game in question. I just set it up, kicked it off.
Well, that's a good question. I don't remember whether we actually took turns doing anything, but I enjoyed building the mousetrap. So it's a tufted tip mousetrap.
Bravo. Knew you'd get that one. Knew you'd get that one. Well done. All right, so 4 for 4. Let's see if you can get the whole 5. So we're going to go to bird number 5 now. Let's send that over to you.
The pressure.
That is very high pressure, because if you don't get this, people will just think you don't know your birds after all.
Clearly.
I'm of course joking. All right, so there you go. Everybody at home now
This is
can see
another one that doesn't live where I am, but that's
Okay, so this is the 5th bird. Oh, actually, Chris and Lindsay did get that. Well done. Well done on getting that last one. This is the new one, though. So you've got the final one. The question that goes along with that, yeah, because you need that. Okay, so this might be, I don't know. I think you can get this game in America. I'm not sure. So let's see. Which trivia game by Big Potato tasks the players with finding the connection between 4 answers to different questions? Again, if you have the name of the bird, it will very much help you. But again, it depends on whether you know the game.
Right. The first 4 letters of the name of the game certainly makes sense for the game you described, but I don't know the name of it.
The name of the oh yeah, okay. Okay.
So it's a bobolink.
Correct. Do you want to take a guess?
So something about link. What?
Let me give you, because you pretty much almost got it, but it's just one extra consonant at the end of the word link. So just take a guess what that extra consonant could be. Not consonant, syllable. That's what I meant. Syllable. So it's just a 2-syllable word, link.
Link up.
No, you know what?
Link.
You got 4.5 points. It's linky. Linky. And you know what? I did have.
I don't know that.
So it's a really neat trivia game where it isn't necessarily about knowing the answers to the questions themselves, but as long as you can get a couple, then you're just trying to find the link between those answers that you know, and that's the real answer. So quite a neat little game. If you like trivia games, I do recommend it. It's by a really good company. They're based in London, and they're called Big Potato. But yeah, so the correct answer was Bobolinky. But I think you can get 4.5 points for that, and I'm pretty sure that's the high score because nobody else has played it. Other than me, and I cheated because I wrote down all the answers. So, so I think bravo. Thank you for playing along. How was that? Did you enjoy that game?
Yeah, it was fun.
Good. That's what I like. I like it as long as people had fun. That's the main thing. Yeah, so I'll take the bird off the screen there. And now we'll go on to some... Thank you, by the way. That's really kind. Somebody's just said they enjoyed the game. So yeah, cool. Maybe a bit tough for people playing at home if they are not huge Wingspan, players. And even if they do, because it's so hard. There's 170 odd birds in there to remember. So yeah, fair play. But I think you did very well. And...
It's been super fun to hear from folks who were not birders before playing Wingspan, who are like, "Oh my god, I went outside today and saw this bird, and I knew what it was."
Oh my god, I had an experience that I can't remember the name. Is it cardinal? But those like bright red birds, and I saw a video on that, and I was like, I know that bird, I know it. So that's I've had the same experience. So yeah, fair play. And those birds in real life are amazing. Like they're so brightly coloured. Okay.
they're common enough here that we sort of take them for granted.
Oh,
Like if someone was like, "What's the most beautiful bird in North America?" No one would ever say cardinal. Like it's just like,
that
they're
I
everywhere. They're
I
amazing.
find that's a shame because they are. I mean, like I mean, obviously, I don't know birds well enough. Like, I know actually that some birds are not that nice. Like you've got the cuckoo who is a bit of a jerk. I've heard. He will like kick eggs out of or sneak his eggs into other birds' nests. Is that correct? So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
feel like maybe I shouldn't just be like just judging a bird by its color. But I do. I'm afraid I'm a novice birder. But based just quickly on that, did you ever find people have surely come up to you and said, like you just said, I became into birding because of the game that I played?
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And especially during the pandemic, people are like, "Oh, we're finally like starting to look at the birds and put up a bird feeder." And yeah,
Wonderful. That's just so nice.
really cool.
Yeah, fair play.
Yeah.
All right, so questions from the audience. So we have had somebody asked on Twitter, and I'm just going onto the Twitter. We had a couple on Twitter actually. Is there any plans for a Tussie Mussy expansion?
Funny you should ask that. Yeah, I've started thinking about that and sort of brainstorming back and forth with the guys at Button Shy. So
Wow, that's
we'll see if it works. It's a little hard to wrap my head around what an expansion for an 18 card game should look like.
yeah. Is it more 18
The
more
base is only
cards, or is
18
there like a few more?
cards.
That's you know what? That's why you're the designer. I
Yep.
trust your judgment there. But that's really exciting. Is that the
Yeah,
first that people have been told that, or
possibly. I hope I'm not like spilling any secrets. I don't think
oh,
Button Shy is like
I'm glad you did. Spill more. Please spill more. Spill the tea. Okay, cool. Great. So that's exciting news. So that's from ER Burgess. Okay, so another question that somebody asked online was, what can we expect from the Oceania expansion, and will there be some end game changes potentially?
that we're not talking about.
Okay, fair enough. But
But it is pretty much wrapped up. We've done 3 rounds of blind playtesting, and I am procrastinating on sending the final files to Jamie by doing this chat instead.
oh, brilliant. Well, I'm sorry, everybody. I'm sorry you have to wait another hour or a few days for this because of me. But thank you for joining anyway. Well, that's wonderful. Okay. And do you know when more news on that will be revealed, do you think?
I think like right before Jamie actually his strategy is usually to announce and or release details of something like when it has already arrived from China so that he knows exactly when it will be available for
I
sale
see.
because he's had enough experiences I think of things getting hung up in customs or on the boat or whatever of just like he doesn't want to put a date out
Hmm.
there about something and all the information when people can't act on it.
I
So
mean,
he's like, once we have it, then we know, and I'll give you all the information, and you can go order it immediately as soon as you read about
well,
it.
that's fair enough. He mentioned a bit about that. It's hard to control people's expectations, even when you do things like let's just hold off from revealing any information until because someone somewhere is going to be disappointed that it's not as soon as it was. So I totally appreciate that. And yeah, Jamie did mention that before, so that's fair enough. Okay, so let's get
Right.
to. Sorry, carry on.
I was gonna say normally he wouldn't have even announced what continent we were working on, but he wanted to do a fundraiser for the wildfires in
That
Australia.
was really neat, by the way.
So yeah, so he announced that that was going to be the next, and then had people for everyone that signed up. It wasn't even really a fundraiser; it was for every person that
The
signed up to be
newsletter, yeah.
notified when the expansion is available. He donated
I
money.
mean, that's so
Uh,
nice. I mean, is he a good guy to work with, Jamie?
yeah,
Yeah.
he's been
Oh,
great.
fantastic. I'm glad you said that because it would have been really hard for me to go, yeah, I interviewed him. Oh, but he's a horrible person. So I'm glad you said that. Okay, so let's go to some questions from the chat we had. Who have we got here? So Chris and Lindsay from Behind the Box. You enjoy designing games with themes based on nature. You've explored flowers and birds. Is there another nature theme you'd like to take a stab at?
I keep saying I want to do mushrooms.
Yes, you mentioned that with Tom Vassell, actually. Do you, so you,
I gotta actually work on that. I keep talking about it. People are gonna start wanting it.
it's locked in now. You've already put it out there, so people are going to be disappointed if they don't see your game based on mushrooms. There is actually a game I know on mushrooms called Fungi. Have you played that? It's a two-player game.
Are you thinking of Morels?
It could be the same game under a different thing, but it's
Yeah,
about collecting.
it's like a set collection.
Yes, but it's like about you collect, you get butter and cider to increase the.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
okay, so
Yeah.
that would be the same game. It's just
Yeah.
called Fungi.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, it's quite a neat game, and it.
Yes, I have that
Oh,
game.
you do? Okay, so
Yeah.
there's obviously no chance it's going to be very too similar to that, which is good. But it's funny that game because I work at well, I say work. I was working up until the lockdown in a board game cafe, and we have that game, and it's got a very like a classic art style. As in, it doesn't really jump out to you necessarily on a game shelf because it looks like a game from could have come from like the 90s, where they didn't have like the finesse and the great production quality that obviously board games have now because there's a lot more money in it. But people play that far more often than normal for a game that looks so strange and with like a very what I call dry theme because it is. But I'm all for games with dry themes. Like Patrick is a great game and it's making a quilt. Which is very dry, but people love it. So,
I mean, is it dry? Those are both things that are like incredibly popular with people.
That is true. But what I mean is, if you look at it in terms of trying to attract attention, if you were to try and attract attention about a game to the general sort of mass audience, if it doesn't have like zombies or pirates or like some robots fighting one another. That's what I mean when I say it's not like a wildly flashy title.
See, but that's what I was talking about with the chicken and egg before. Like, I think that you need the zombies to attract a certain set of people that already play games, but you need the quilts to bring in all the people that don't like the zombies, right? So, like, the quilts are a totally flashy theme to a wide demographic that has not traditionally played board games.
That's a very, very valid point. And I do apologize if I made it seem like I wasn't up for that. But what I mean is that...
No, I think publishers have been thinking too small about what works as a theme.
Well, I guess that was my point in bringing it up because this game, which is just about mushrooms, just gets played an awful lot. And people even say that, it's a really good game. So I guess I'm kind of proving your point by saying that because it's a game that gets played a lot. And I personally, I tried it and I wasn't completely won over by it because I don't have that sort of like experience with foraging, etc. But I can totally see how people would like buy into that because that's part of their interest and I guess every game has its own audience, and I think you're well on the money with that, and that's probably a good reason why people are just so mind blown and just so impressed with Wingspan as a creation because nobody ever really did games about birds before and habitats. So I think that's true. I think it's a fair point. Yeah, sorry, I got a bit lost in my words there, but yeah, you've just schooled me on that. But I was essentially trying to prove your point. Let's go on to another question. So we have so Kestrel 5 asks, what's the 3-minute pitch on how you became a game designer? It doesn't have to be 3 minutes.
It's actually exactly what we were just talking about. I was sick of playing games about castles and trading in the Mediterranean and like all these themes that just felt super dry to me.
Mm-hmm. But do you?
So I wanted to make a game about something I liked.
But what was the trigger that was like? So you obviously played games. I'm assuming from that you played games, and what was your kind of the thing? Because obviously I know from speaking to a lot of people that not everybody has it in them to design a game because it is like a specific skill set. I mean, people can often like know a good game and a bad game, but that doesn't necessarily translate into being able to design one. But did you always feel like you had it in you, or did you just think like, yeah, I can definitely give this a go?
I mean, it's more that once it literally came out of a conversation with a bunch of friends of like who are all sort of outdoorsy people / gamers who all shared my sentiment, and for some reason I was the person whose brain like latched onto this idea and was like, oh yeah, there should totally be a game about birds. I know how to do a game about birds. It could be just, and just like wouldn't let it go. I don't know why. Like that's just what my brain.
Have you ever done? I mean, that's great. But have you done anything before that you think actually prepared you for this? Like gave you the skills that kind of meant you could really nail this game design?
Not that I could nail it, certainly, and I didn't nail it for a long time. But I was just teasing someone the other day on the Wingspan Facebook group because they were posting little um, end of round goals that they had made up, like because they wanted more end of round goals. I was like, be careful, because the first thing I ever did as a game designer was making end of round goals for Race of the Galaxy. It's a slippery slope.
Did you feel like, because as you mentioned about house rules in the interview just now, and I think that was, good point. House rules is great, but it takes a specific skill to like balance the games, right? And so that's essentially what. Ross just asked the question. Has anyone asked you what your favorite bird in the game is, illustration wise or just generally? And I'm sure this is Ross. I'm sure Elizabeth has been asked what her favorite bird is. But for those who don't know, perhaps what would you answer?
So generally, not necessarily illustration wise, because I think there are some, like the cover bird is one of my favorite illustrations, right? That's part of how it ended up on the cover. But I always say the roseate spoonbill as a bird is one of my favorite birds, because they're big and pink and they have like a ridiculous spoon-shaped bill. It's just like, this bird should not exist. How did evolution like go on for millions of years to result in this bird? I don't understand, but it's amazing.
Well, there we go. I actually didn't know the answer to that, so I feel silly. But it's a good question. Good question, Ross. Somebody else asked, can you describe? Oh, actually, there's two questions. Let's see which one we can ask. This one. Can you describe what it was like to pitch your game to different publishers? Assuming that is you did, because I know you pitched to Stonemaier, but you must have.
I did. Okay. So I took it to Gen Con, and I set up 3 different meetings at Gen Con with different publishers. It was terrifying. I knew no one. I was like coming in from completely outside the industry. So it was really like cold calling. I mean, sending emails to people just out of the blue. They had no idea who I was, and trying to get them to set up meetings. The Stonemaier process at that point was actually like, you could just sign up for a 30-minute block with Stonemaier. You didn't have to like justify that, like you didn't have to say, yes, we're interested in hearing this pitch. And I think that might have been part of how I got it. I don't know. Although Jamie had definitely resonated with the bird theme, so he might have said yes anyway. But it was they did not know what I was bringing them. It was just that I had signed up for a half-hour slot, which is an interesting process. They don't do that anymore, because I think they just
got overwhelmed.
All publishers get so many pitches now. There's so many people designing games. It's tough to get noticed for sure, and it's. I really practiced my pitch. Like, I recorded myself on my phone, on the camera on my phone, doing the pitch over and over until I like stopped stumbling over all of my words, and felt really smoother going into it. And I was so glad I had done that, because then your nerves like take you to a much stumblier place. So if you like worked out the basic kinks in what you're gonna say, then you like can still sound like a fairly normal person, even though you're crazy nervous.
I mean, it's another skill that, not everybody has, speaking in public, and especially pitching, where it's very much on you. Yeah. But, it's funny. I was just thinking, as you were saying that, about how if Stonemaier hadn't done the open slot, and if Jamie hadn't thought like, had the mindset of, we need to be going after something new, how like you wouldn't even be sitting here today with like so many awards. So right. I just find that crazy how it does often come down to like individual decisions and moments that kind of put you where you are today. And I find that really cool, and it's really thankful, especially now that we've seen. I mean, I've played both your games. I own I own Wingspan. I've played Tasi, but I don't own it yet, because I actually looked for it at the last convention I was at, but they didn't have it, sadly. So probably because it's selling too well. And I'm certainly excited to try Mariposas. But yeah, I feel like quite wild, and it's so good that those things happened, because I wouldn't be able to play this amazing games. And
Yeah.
actually, we're actually running right to the end of the time now.
Oh,
So
it,
I hope that flew by for me. I don't know about you, but like I enjoyed myself so much.
absolutely.
So while I've got everybody here, I want to do. Actually, I want to let Elizabeth plug anything you want. What would you like people to know about you? Obviously, you've got your upcoming game Mariposas that we talked about, but anything else like that you want to pitch or not pitch? I just think because he was talking about pitch, but.
That's the main thing that actually has a schedule right now. I think the Oceania expansion will probably be after that, but probably still 2020, but late this year. I have a little email newsletter that you can sign up for on my website, which is elizhargrave.com, ELIZ Hargrave. And I'm super active on Twitter as Eliz Hargrave too. So those are probably the two best ways to sort of follow what I have going on or coming up.
Yeah, but there we go. And anyone who's watching and you haven't followed me on Twitch, please do. There's a follow button, I think up there. No, where am I looking at? There, up there. If you exit the screen, you'll find the follow button. Please follow me. I'm trying to get to 100 followers, but there's no rush. If you like these chats, I will be doing more of them. And in fact, I wrote this down because I knew I'd forget. On Thursday at 3:00, I'll be playing this game, Imperial Settlers Roll and Write, on Twitch. So you can join in if you have a copy. If not, you can just watch me play it through solo as well. It's a really good game, so try that. And also, I'll be chatting to... thank you, amazing Mr. B, for following. I'll also be chatting to Calvin Wong from Crazy Rich Asians, and a phenomenal writer, really active... cool kind of there's a word I like to use for him. He's a really cool, like he's really good at like fighting for justice and like diversity and stuff. Like there's a name for people like that. I can't remember. Really cool guy. He's a really cool guy. So I'll be chatting to him this Friday at the same time, 6 p.m. UK time, 5 p.m. GMT. So please tune in for that, and you will get a notification if you follow me. And as you can see, all my other stuff down there. I've got a Patreon and an Instagram and Twitter. So yeah, sorry, I always have to do the necessary plug thing there. But listen, Elizabeth, thank you so much. You've been an absolutely wonderful guest. I feel like I've learned... Oh, my pleasure. I feel like I've learned a lot about you. Hopefully everybody else did too. I'm glad you enjoyed the game. And yeah, like follow her on Twitter. She's awesome. I can't wait to play more of your games.
Awesome. Thanks.
All right, guys. So until the next time, we'll take care and see you on the next one. Bye.
Bye.